Hi guys, today I'm going to be reviewing this Army Painter Speedpaint Mega Set. I was lucky enough to receive the full set from Army Painter to review. I'd already seen the bigger channel's pre-release reviews, like Dana Howell's, which were really positive, and I would have been super happy to receive even one bottle, but I'm glad to be able to check out the whole range for you guys. So far, Army Painter's only released these paints in a starter set with 10 colours and this mega set with 24 colours. You can't purchase them individually, but I would be very surprised if they didn't extend their range in the future. If you compare them to their nearest equivalent, the Citadel contrast paints, they work out around £1 cheaper per colour than the contrast paint bundle. So let's see if they're just as good quality. I picked up these little architecture models as testers. It's a great way to just see what the colour's going to look like, rather than having to find 24 spare Games Workshop models, even if they're second hand. I stuck them all to strips of cardboard, so I can keep track of which colour is which, and then primed them. I'm going to be doing a test for each colour with one coat and two coats, side by side, so you can see how much that changes each colour. So, as I started painting, I could get a feel for the consistency of the paint. If you haven't seen my video on how to make your own contrast paint, be sure to check that out for a more in-depth analysis of Citadel contrast paint. But if you have seen it, you'll know that I wasn't a huge fan of the particular colour I used. I found it to be quite gloopy and weirdly high gloss, which resulted in quite a plasticky finish, whereas these speed paints are much closer to my homebrew mix. They flow really nicely and act in a similar way to inks. It's almost like painting with watercolours. The finish is totally matte, which is definitely my preference. I think it's much nicer to work with matte paints and then add a gloss or satin varnish at the end if you want certain areas to be shinier, rather than dealing with the sticky gloss the whole time. Another thing that I noticed immediately is the consistency of the paints. And by that, I don't mean how they flow, I mean how each colour is consistent with the next. I think one of the issues with the Citadel contrast paints is that even though they're all given the same name, they don't all seem to have the same chemical makeup. Some are gloopier than others, some are more opaque, some are thinner, some are matte, others gloss. Maybe this is just a production issue, and the particular bottle I got wasn't as intended. But that doesn't take away from the fact that these paints are definitely consistent. Let's have a look at the colours, all with one coat on the left and two on the right. Hive Dweller Purple, Slaughter Red, Blood Red, Fire Giant Orange, Purple Alchemy, Crusader Skin, Darkwood, Hardened Leather, Sand Golem, Pallid Bone, Zealot Yellow, Malignant Green, Absolution Green, Orc Skin, Camo Cloak, Plasmatic Bolt, Magic Blue, High Lord Blue, Cloudburst Blue, Runic Grey, Gravelord Grey, Grim Black, and Holy White. I think my favourite colour might be Slaughter Red. I tend to use a lot of red on my models, and this is a great blood colour. Fire Giant Orange also stands out to me as one of the colours that looks the best with just one coat. We've managed to achieve a big contrast between the dark and light parts of the model, making it a viable option for a one and done kind of paint job. Crusader Skin gets me quite excited because the skin tones are some of the most hardest colours to mix yourself, and this mix seems like a great choice for a base colour. I think Darkwood and Hardened Leather would actually be great for use as skin tones as well, maybe mixing bits of each for some variation. I also had to mention Plasmatic Blue, because it's just really pretty. But before I end up just pointing out my personal colour preferences, there's one more bottle to try. The 24th colour isn't a colour at all, or maybe it's better to say it's actually infinite colours, because it's clear speed paint medium. Again, if you've watched my contrast paint video, you'll know that I used nail powder pigment mixed with Liquitex matte medium and a few drops of Liquitex Flow Aid. This speed paint medium is essentially matte medium and Flow Aid combined into one bottle. This would be absolutely a great product to sell separately, in much larger bottles. Liquitex matte medium and Flow Aid cost each around £10, but for a total of £20 you're getting at least 600ml of product. And here I believe you're getting just 18. So they're going to have to price their product pretty competitively to beat Liquitex's 3p per model. But we do pay for convenience, and I could definitely see myself having fun with this medium. Here you can see it's pretty much the same finish as my homebrew, in terms of consistency and sheen. So we know how it compares to my mix, but what's it like alongside contrast paint? Here we have Shaiish Purple, next to Army Painter's Hive Dweller Purple. I have to say, I was surprised by how dark the Hive Dweller Purple was. It's a nice colour, but slightly more understated than I was expecting. Closer to a purple-toned black than a rich royal purple. I do have 2 more contrast paints, which for some reason are much matter than Shaiish Purple. The Volupus Pink is pretty much indistinguishable from Purple Alchemy. Both really nice colours and finishes. Same with Black Templar versus Grim Black. They have a really similar finish. Well, we've had a brief look at all the colours individually, but I'd like to see what painting a whole model with the speed paints feels like. I've primed this Necromancer from Zombicide Black Plague with Army Painter Skeleton Bone Spray Primer, so the speed paints should look slightly less vibrant than on my white testers. I dotted a few bits of opaque white onto the bits that I wanted to be lighter than my base, like the skulls. Then I started with Crusader Skin for the fleshy parts. Next, some Grim Black. I mixed the two together for some brown details. Then I started wet blending Slaughter Red and Purple Alchemy over the robes. And then added some Hive Mind Purple into the shadows as well. I was planning on just using speed paints on their own, but I did need to use some opaque white to make the highlights pop. So, as you can see, the model overall is much more muted and dark than my testers. One of the benefits of using translucent colours like this is how easily you can change the vibe by using a different primer. A bright white, a metallic silver, or a darker bone will have very different effects. The Skeleton Bone primer did dull it down more than I was expecting. I still like the way it turned out, especially considering how fast it was to paint the model. So, what do I think of Army Painter speed paints? I think they're great. They're pretty similar to my homebrew contrast paints. And while it's fun to mix your own colours, sometimes you just want the convenience of a pre-mixed colour. For one, you know it's always going to match your other models exactly. They're a good quality and reliable product, and I'm looking forward to Army Painter releasing the products individually, especially the Speedpaint Medium. In a big bottle though, please. If you want to see more of these speed paints, you can see me paint this Toxicrene next week. Be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss it, and be sure to like if you like this one. Let me know in the comments below if you'll be picking up any speed paints of your own, and what you'll be painting with them. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.